Hello, and welcome back to another tutorial. Today we are once again learning how to cry in Houdini. This time we're going to put some tears on a moving character. So this time we're going to put them on the capybara, who's just going for a lovely stroll. Currently, all I've done so far is create a test geometry capybara node, and I'm going to just rename him Cry V2. And all I've done is put in the capybara test geometry in this joint deform to put the animation from the capybara node onto the capybara. And you might notice the capybara also comes with like muscle surfaces and bone surfaces, but like right now we only need the capybara itself. So I'm just going to also add a null down here. I'm going to go out character. And now I'm also going to add another geometry node just so I can see the capybara on the surface and go under. I'm just going to do render animal. I'm going to turn this off and we're going to go inside this node. There's a few different things I want to kind of explore with this model. So I'm going to once again draw a curve this time. I'm going to draw a curve around the tear ducts of our character. And I'm also going to go to projection, go to use UVs, go to geometry, and I'm going to ghost my capybara, show all objects on the surface, hopefully. Or I forgot to put in my object merge up here. So I'm going to put my object merge in my render animal node. And then I'm going to go to cry to and bring the character out. So now this should be in this node. Now we're going to draw our curve on the capybara. We're going to hit enter in the viewport so we can see our thing. And then we're going to lower our radius. Then we're going to zoom in and we're going to once again draw a curve in the inner eyelid of our character. We only need one line today, so I'm just going to put a null underneath it that says line. And I'm going to turn on my points visualizer. Then I'm going to ghost all objects and I'm going to resample this line. What we're going to do is we're going to go to resample, go over here, and resample our line like this. Now what we're also going to do, is we are going to create a group in expression, and we're going to call this group start point. We're going to use this start point later for our simulation when we have tears drip down through the eyes. The next thing we're going to do is switch this over to points, and then we're going to say choose the first point of the primitive. Then we're going to put our blue display flag on the node, and you're going to see the first point of the primitive is selected. I'm going to add a blast node, and then once again go to points, select the group start point, and then delete non-selected. So we only have that point. I'm just going to do start point and label this. I'm going to put a null over here signifying that's going to be it for my simulation. The next thing we're going to do is we are going to fill that eyelid full of tears. So we're going to do something very similar to what we did last time. So this time we're going to use a point jitter. In our previous tutorial, we did something very similar to the method we are using now. So we were creating some jitter along the eyelid, which you can see the line is hugging the eye as well, which is great. We might need a little bit more jitter. So I'm going to do 3. And then I'm also going to go back up to my resample, just turn this back down to 1. And I'm going to go to my seed, $ divided by 23. And now we can see that there's jitter along the eye, and it should be animated now. The other thing I want to do for this point in time is I want to go to my resample node, and I want to go to curve view. And then after the point jitter, I'm going to add a attribute randomize, and I'm going to add p scale. Then I'm going to go over here, and I am going to do some things like that and just lower my radius for my p scale. Then I'm going to go to my polywire, drop 1 down. It's going to freak out, but we're going to add p scale times at curve view up here, and we're going to see what happens. Then we're going to put these in brackets. And then we're going to times this by 0.3. And now we're going to see if we can fix some of the values. Because right now I think curve view requires more love, and also we got to times that value. It looks a little bit too small to me. We'll make this a little bit thicker, and we'll add some divisions as well. Now this is looking good, but now we have to smooth everything out. So we're going to use a smooth node. And this smooth node is just going to go along the capybara's eyes like that. Now I'm going to turn off my points visualizer. I think we might need a little bit more thickness, so I'm going to go to my polywire and up it a little bit. Actually, let's make it smaller. Now I'm going to add a VDB from polygons. And we're going to times this by 0.1. And then keep going down until we find a value that we're happy with, like this. The next thing I'm going to do is use VDB, reshape SDF. And now I can either dilate the tiers and make them bigger, or what I could do is I could use an erode to erode them away like this if I wanted to have the eye kind of clear up. But that's really up to you of what you want. I think it might be cool to start with a lot of tiers in the eye and then have it swell down over time. So that's what I think I'm going to do. I am going to go over here and I'm going to animate this starting on frame 20. And then by the time it gets to frame 67 or 65, I'm going to have my erode completely eat away all the tiers. So he's slowly going to get less sad over time. Now I'm going to add a convert node. A convert node is going to allow me to convert my VBDs from polygons into that tier shape. So we have around 4,000 polygons, but I don't like the overall thickness of everything, so I'm just going to increase it a little bit. Now I'm going to go to color. And I'm also going to add just a little tiny smooth because I don't like how pokey this is. So VDB smooth, it's very, very lightly because the iterations need to just right. And I think I might also add a peak up here underneath my poly wire. And what peak will do is just make it swell everything just a little bit. So that might be a little bit too big, but big enough where we can see this on the capybara's eye and it's noticeable like that. Now the next thing we're going to do is scroll down here. 6,000 polygons is a lot, so we probably need to remesh this. And then we need to lower the target length and slowly, ever so slowly, lower it until we have something less than 4,000 polygons. So we've got this down to 900, which I think is fine. Now I'm going to cache this out because I'm pretty happy with the way this part of the tiers look. And I'm going to call this ducks. And we're going to go save to disk in background. And while that saves out, I'm going to create a null. And I'm going to place this down here and go out tier ducks. Now our job is going to get the tiers to go down the face. Well, that clears up. So going back over here, our biggest issue is that we are now trying to emit particles or stream down a moving character that may not want to hug the mesh at all. So how can we start to go about that? Well, first of all, we have to create the particle simulation. So I'm going to put down our popnet, and we're just going to emit as is and see what happens. So I'm going to go points. We're going to keep the life expectancy as is. And I'm going to go to my point visualizer here, D in the viewport, and make all my points bigger, just so I can know what was going on. So it's not moving, which is odd. We need to put on the object transform. Now we also need to add gravity, otherwise nothing can go down face. So let's do that. That's interesting. It suddenly all disappears and we notice this line traveling all the way down. Now we probably need to add collisions, so let's do that. I'm going to go up here and I'm going to add a merge. And I'm going to go static object. Switch things around, and then I'm going to jump out. Up here where I have my capybara, I'm just going to move this up here, add something called a collision source, plug this in, null here, and a null here, and we're going to plug that in. So that's going to be col and vol. So the volume collisions, I'm just going to check in on this, look a little bit off, so we're going to fix that. We're going to fill the interior, and we're going to adjust the voxel size. That might be a little bit too small. There we go. So now we're going to go into our PopNet, go to our static object, and bring in all of our collisions. So I'm going to reference the collider. I'm going to go cry2, deforming geometry, transform geometry, make sure those are turned on because this is a moving object. I want to turn down my bounce forward. I don't want this to be bouncy. I want the tears to stick to the face. And I want to use volume sample and surface collisions. And just for now, I want to turn on my collision guide while I set my proxy volume. So I want to go down here and find the vol node. And we can see the mesh matches everything, so that's fine. So I'm going to turn it off. I'm going to go to bullet data, turn on convex hull, go to concave. And then from there, I'm just going to turn off my display geometry for now, just so I can see how everything falls. So suddenly, all this looks a little bit different. So let's turn on our display geometry, and let's also go to physical up here on our pop object, and turn down the bounce forward of our particles. That looks interesting. It's almost like our particles are bouncing off our character. So let's turn down all our bounce on everything and play it back. So if I play it forward with the capybara in front of me, it's almost like the tears are leaping forward and they're not hugging the body of the character at all. So I think what we need to do is go to collision behavior and go to stop or stick, just so the tears build up on the face properly. Oh, well, that's unfortunate as well. So probably we need, let's try slide. So right over here we have tears that are somewhat sliding, but that's interesting. They're moving very, very fast. We're getting closer. But we need these to stick to the character. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to go over here, double check to make sure I'm not bringing in any velocity. I'm going to go over here to positive, negative, and for simulate from back and see if that changes anything. All right, so that actually does quite the trick. We have some tears continuously flowing through the eyes of the capybara, but it's honestly going pretty fast and they're very much sliding. So I think what we need to do is add some drag. So we'll use some pop drag. So now we have something happening here. We have the tears moving a little bit slower. They're still sliding across the character. I'm going to add a little bit more air resistance, and then we're going to try again. I'm going to adjust from slide to stick. So instead of stopping, it sticks to the collision object. I'm going to adjust my gravity and make sure my movement goes down farther and gets pulled to the ground more quickly. I think what I'm also going to do is change this back to slide. And what I'm also going to do is go to pop drag and increase that to 10. I'm also going to add some wind velocity going down. We do have some tears, but they're honestly dying off. They're slow. We need the tears to go straight down like this. So what I'm going to do is I'm also going to add a little bit more wind velocity here. I'm also going to go up here and change my life expectancy to 1. And also do this for 45 in life variation and play this back. So we definitely have some interesting particle movement happening. The particles actually seem to be going through the object as well. So I think we also need some sub-steps. So I'm going to go sub-steps here, give this 3 sub-steps, and I'm going to slow everything down to around, let's say, half speed. All right, so we're slowly getting there. We're getting less strobing. The particles still need to die off sooner. So I'm going to lower this life expectancy to 0.1. And I'm also going to decrease the number of particles I have. And for this one, I'm also going to decrease the life variance as well. So we're getting closer. We might have to increase our number of particles again. And also our drag. So I'm going to double our drag and double the amount of wind velocity going downwards. And also just add some more particles as well. All right, so we have to continuously adjust the speed of everything, how it's dripping down the character. Now I have to come back and adjust this, but I think we also need to adjust the volume resolution of this as well, because I don't think it's high res enough. So I'm going to cache this out. Go to File Cache, Full, and I'm going to save to disk in background. We're going to let this save out. Now I'm also going to, while I'm waiting for that to cache out, I'm going to add an attribute delete anything that I don't need, which is probably going to be everything but velocity. Delete this. And then we're also probably going to need a file cache after this as well. We're going to just call this particles. We're not going to cache it out yet. And then after that, we're going to add a particle fluid surface. I'm just going to add a null here as well. This is going to be for out tiers. And then above that, I'm going to add a blue color, just so we can notice this as tiers. We're also going to add a cache in between our particle fluid surface and the color. So we're going to call this cache surface. And then this we'll just wait for this to continue rendering. And then from there, we will see how this goes. All right, so our volumes have finished caching out, which is great. So we play that back, we should see the volume representation. Should be high res enough to use in our simulation. So let's go back inside and see how our particles react now. So they look like they should be in the right place. They're still not going straight down, and they're using the they're not sticking to the model as much as I'd like them to be. So what we're going to do is I'm just going to increase my friction a little bit. And I'm also going to increase my drag. I'm going to increase this to 23, and I'm going to play this back. Now I'm also going to slow this down again, and then up here on the scale time, slow this down to 0.5. I'm going to change this to stick now. I think this is going to be a lot more efficient. And already this looks a little bit messy, but that's okay. We're going to be able to fix this. So let's go up here, and where we have right outside our PopNet, we're going to use something called array to reproject this capybara movement on the capybara. I'm going to grab the null up here, go to array, minimum distance, and now this point should stick to our capybara as he moves across the world. Now I'm going to cache everything out. Before I do that on the array, I'm just going to make sure that I am only kind of exporting my points. So I'm going to use a delete node, put it up here, points, and then go to stream first input, and we're just going to delete non-selected. Then I'm going to go up here and go save to disk and backgrounds. And then we'll wait for these particles to save out before we proceed on to our next step. All right, so that is now saved out. We now have particles that are on the character's face. Let's use a particle fluid surface to kind of mesh them together. So we're going to lower the particle separation. Already we have some good chunky boy tears happening, and those are looking very, very promising. I'm going to lower this even more. You can see some very fine tears now starting to build up, and we can even increase our influence radius to make them more chunky. So let's look back on our mesh and see how it's changing and deforming over time on our surface. I'm going to also save this out now. I actually might, in the long run, actually change up the particle separation to be a little bit more higher or lower than I'd like it to be. I think this should be fine. Let's save everything out. All right, now that it's finished caching out, let's play this back and see how our tears react on our capybara. I'm going to basically frame a camera close to get to follow the capybara as it moves around the scene, just so we can have a close-up on its eye. And then I'm going to zoom in on this camera, add a couple keyframes, go to frame 72, zoom out, pick a good spot where I want that camera to be, and now we should get a close-up of the capybara as he moves along the scene like this. Now let's see if we can trace some tears. So let's turn on our cry tears, and let's turn off our walk symbol, and let's flipbook this. That looks interesting. It's not as flowy as I would like. So let's go in and adjust some more things, because right now it's looking a little bit too static. And let's also, just for fun, merge both the tear ducts and the tears together just to see how they work over time. I think we lost some of our color on our tear ducts, so I'm just going to put that over there. And let's play. So that's getting really, really close. Let's go and adjust our sim a little bit more. So let's go to our PopNet, and I'm going to probably increase the number of particles that I have. And I'm also going to make my particles just a little bit bouncy. See if that changes anything. All right, so I made some changes to the sim to get it work better. First off, I changed the life expectancy and also the constant birth rate. And then down here, I also changed some settings on the drag. I put it back to 1, 2, 3, and then kept the wind velocity at -12. On the pop wind, these are the only settings I changed, the swirl size and the amplitude. On the pop solver, I just changed this to unchanged now. On the pop object, I've just changed my bounce forward and friction settings here. And on my static object, I've also changed some physical settings as well. Now, when I ray everything together, we should see the lines coming down the character's face like this. And now I'm going to hit save to disk and backgrounds. Out. I'm going to go to particle fluid surface down here and keep it on my regular settings. I'm going to go to surface, save to disk, save everything out, and we'll wait a couple seconds. And then down here, we're just going to look through our camera view again. You can see as our character capybara is walking forward, his tears are just running down his face like that. And then now if we play it back, so that's how you can do 2 different types of tears on a moving character.